So with the release of episode 5 and 6 of Maul Shadow Lord, now that the Empire is a prominent role in the series, we see a lot of TK troopers. If you don't know, TK troopers are basically like the early development of stormtroopers. But a big question I see some people asking, and even I'm asking myself, is kind of where are the clones? Because at this point in the timeline, it's basically the same time as Bad Batch. So obviously in Bad Batch there was a lot more clones, so the question really is like, where is the clones? All the voices that we've seen in these episodes of the TK troopers are just normal people, but I have some theories on this, and I'll give my explanation as to where they could be and maybe even potentially show up later in the series. And obviously the clones aren't a primary focus of the show, that's not the point of the show, but that's the point of this channel, so I'm gonna talk about it. And I want to talk about it because it's not just like a random thought or anything like that. It is actually kind of a good question, like where are the clones? Because in Bad Batch they seem still quite prominent within the Empire, and to just see literally none of them in these episodes where there's so many TK troopers on this planet, it does feel a little weird as to like where they would be, because it doesn't seem like they would be phased out or decommissioned that fast. So I think my main theory that connects to Bad Batch and honestly kind of gives me a new perspective on Bad Batch is that once the Empire rose to power, once they started using TK troopers more prominently, they put clones on boring missions, kind of pointless missions, like that episode in the Bad Batch with Crosshair and that clone on that like winter stormy planet. And it's obvious that, you know, the clones are just being kind of used as, they're not really seen as human, and they're just being put on these pointless boring missions that really have no significance, because in the end we find out in that episode that they were really just protecting new stormtrooper armor. So I think it could be one theory that, you know, for a mission as significant as finding Darth Maul, the Empire really wants to utilize the TK troopers, and they want the TK troopers to become more prominent and more of an opposing threat than the clones. Like at this point the Empire is really trying to put any remnants of the Republic behind them, and that includes the clones. So I don't think it makes sense to just completely decommission and get rid of all clones in the Empire. Like I think at this point there is probably still a lot of clones working in the Empire, but they really want to show a new era with these two TK troopers. And honestly, I think that is probably the main reason for now, but I guess it also could be some other theories, like maybe there are actually clones in these TK troopers armor, but I don't think that makes sense, because like we saw in the Bad Batch, you could really tell the difference. You know, the clones were in the clone armor and then the TK troopers were in the TK armor, but maybe at this point, you know, there are some clones in the TK trooper armor. But I think that's the main reason that we're not seeing TK troopers right now. But let's move on to some theories as to why I think there actually will be clones in this series eventually. So I actually did like a full video on this before any episodes came out, and you can go watch that. I think some of my theories still stand, and I will mention some of them in this video. But now that we're 6 episodes in, I actually have a new theory that I think is a lot more likely than any theories that I mentioned in that video, and it's the fact that I think Darth Vader is going to be in the show. It was kind of teased at the end. I mean, I guess there's some debate as to whether that's Darth Vader or not. I definitely think it's Darth Vader for a lot of different reasons. One, there was like a leaked poster, I don't know if it was real, you could correct me in the comments down below, of Darth Vader on the Maul poster. Also, the way the Inquisitor bowed down and he said "my lord" was very reminiscent of something, you know, someone would say to Vader. I guess it could be Palpatine, but and even if it is Palpatine, I guess my theory still kind of stands, and I'll get into it. So if it is Vader, which I'm pretty certain it will be, he's gonna have to come in with a special unit or special forces. Like I doubt Vader's gonna come in with just regular old TK troopers by his side. And he could just like mysteriously come in by himself. Like that would be kind of cool, I guess, if he just like, boom, there's Darth Vader and he doesn't really have forces by his side. But I do think it's likely that we're gonna see like Vader's fist. I think that's definitely a possibility. Maybe some remnants of the 501st by Vader's side. I mean, this is a year after Revenge of the Sith. I know Anakin is not really, I mean, it's Vader now, but there is still some of Anakin left in there, like qualities like liking the clone troopers and wanting the clone troopers by his side. So I definitely think that's a possibility that if Vader shows up, we'll also see like Vader's fist, the 501st, even commandos. That was one of my theories in my previous video where I talked about how if once the Empire finds Maul, they're gonna send in some special units to take care of him, and I think clone commandos would make sense. I think the TK troopers, I mean, we've seen it, they don't really stand a chance against Maul, they don't stand a chance against the Jedi, so this is a pretty prominent threat for the Empire. You have Maul and then 2 rogue Jedi. Like, I think it's gonna require a lot, and obviously that's why Vader is probably gonna come in, but I do think there'll be other kind of units besides the TK troopers, and I think that's when the clones will play in, whether that be the commandos, Vader's fist, or even just like special ops, like what were they called, like the Jedi, what was it, Jedi purge troopers, is that's what it's called? Yeah, I think that would be a possibility as well. Regardless of my theories, I do think it would be like kind of a cool touch and a little cool Easter egg if we just heard like a little bit of like D. Bradley Baker's voice in the background. We saw in these last couple episodes there was some dialogue from the TK troopers. They were like questioning the civilians on Gen X, and I think it would just be like a cool little Easter egg if in the background we just heard like a clone yell, "Hey, let me see your identification." I think that would be a cool little Easter egg or detail, but maybe my theory is right that there's no clones on Gen X. And we also do have 4 more episodes of this show, so I think the potential to see higher up, troopers like commandos is pretty likely, because I think now that the Empire's on Gen X, they're kind of just easing their way into it, sending the TK troopers and sending some Imperial officers in, but now that they really are going to realize the threat and the prominence of 2 Jedis and Darth Maul, I think they're going to realize that threat and want to send in bigger enemies and bigger defenses. But regardless of the clones being in the show or not, it's kind of 50-50 at this point. It's not really the focus, but I will say this show is fantastic so far. It definitely took some development for the first couple episodes, but now that we've kind of hit the action point of the show and having that cliffhanger at the end with Darth Vader, I really feel like this show is really coming into its own, and all that kind of development, character development, has really paid off at this point, and it's some of my favorite animated Star Wars that I've seen. Honestly, that last episode, that was so cool, the fight scenes with the Inquisitors and with the Inquisitor and the Jedi. It was so cool. This show is just really good so far, and I mean, I think it has potential to even reach new heights with the introduction of maybe Vader and more in Imperial action. So yeah, I'm very excited. Let me know your thoughts on if you think the clones will be in the show or not and how that would work. Let me know just your thoughts on the show overall. Peace.